Welcome back everybody to codezing.org. We're going to do another level 2 project today. This one is called letter count. You can find the code and an example at codezing.org/letter_count. So check it out. Level 2, letter count. And what it's going to do is you put in a message. So here is my cool message. And submit that. And you can see what it's doing is looking at each letter and counting how many times it occurred in my message and printing that out. So I had 4 spaces, 1 exclamation point, 1 capital H, 1 AC, 4 E's, and so on. It's kind of cool. If we go down to the bottom and grab the code, copy that. It's pretty short code for the amount of stuff it's doing. I think this time we're going to be looking at some loops, and the loops are really powerful because they can do a lot of work in just a few lines of code. So let me restart my console over here. This is of course our Spider IDE we've been using. If you don't have Spider or Python, head back to the website and follow the links to get it installed on your computer. Right, so got my thing fired up again. So the first one is just the normal input like we've been doing, getting the user's message. So it's going to display type message to the console, and then whatever they type in is going to be saved as the variable message. The next is, let's print this out and see what it's doing. Message list. What do you think it's going to do? It's sorted and then message in brackets. I would guess it's going to sort our message. Let's check it out. All right. Our test message, and it printed this out. So what is this? This is a Python list. We can tell that because it has the brackets, the square brackets, and then what it's doing is it's taking each individual item and separating them with a comma. And we can see that it separated our message. Right, it separated, what did we put in? Test message. It separated test message into each letter, and it also sorted them alphabetically, starting with capitals and then lowercase. So we got our sorted message after that step. The next part, and this is something we haven't seen yet in any of the projects, is creating what's called a dictionary. So a dictionary is another way that Python can store data. So we just saw a list is one way, and it's square brackets, and then each item in the list is separated with a comma. And your list can be as long as you want it to be, and it stores these individual values separated by a comma. This is a dictionary, the curly braces, and what a dictionary stores is a key and a value. So you're going to have a key and then a colon and a value is what a dictionary stores. And then the next key and value will be stored as the next item. And that's how a dictionary works. And then you can you can search through a dictionary by searching for the key, and it will give you the value back. So let's just start using it, and hopefully you'll see the idea. But this creates just a blank dictionary with no data inside, just to get it kind of they call it like instantiated, getting it created in the memory so that we can add stuff to it in our loops. So what's our first loop doing? So this is actually, we have a nested loop, which means we have 2 for loops. One for loop on the outside and then one for loop on the inside of that loop. And then we even added an if statement in here. So we got a lot going on. So what's our first one trying to do? Let's try to read this. For letter in message list. So what was message list? Was our sorted list of letters. It was this guy. That's message list. So it's saying look at each letter in message list. So it's going to go through blank to T to A to E to E to E, and it's going to loop through until it gets to the end of the list. So that's what this first loop is doing. Inside that loop I set a new variable called letter count to 0. So this variable is going to count the letters as we loop through them. Our next loop says for each letter in message list, so that's the same thing as this, for letter in message list, for each letter in message list. We're just called it a different variable, but it's going to also look at each letter in the list, and it's going to say if each letter equals letter, then we're going to increase the letter count by 1. So let's print this out as we. So let's say print, and this is not letter. So it's going to show us what letter is, and then we will print each letter and we'll print this test so we can see what the evaluation of that is. And then let's also print out the letter count. Alright, so I've added a bunch of print statements, and that'll just give us some visibility into what is going on behind the scenes as we run through the code. So let's just run it and see how we do. So we'll do test message again. We give it a run. Oops, I misspelled letter count. So name letter count, not letter coot, not defined. Letter, where's my letter coot? Line 18. Letter coot. There. Test message. Alright, and so now it printed out a whole bunch of stuff, and here's our output. It eventually did it correctly. But let's walk through this. So getting a little long. You see all of the work that was done in those 4 loops. But let's test it out. Alright, so we got print letter, print letter, and then print each letter. I think the reason we're getting a blank here is because in our message list, I should have printed that. Let's see, print test message. Alright, so now we can see the test message better. Scrolling. Alright, so here's our list. Here's test message, and you can see when it's looking at the first letter, what is it finding? It's finding a blank. So it actually did print out blank. It printed out the blank letter. And so now it's saying look at blank is equal to letter, and then each letter is also equal to blank. And then, so letter is blank, each letter is blank, and then is each letter equal to letter? And it came back true, because blank is equal to blank, and so it counted to 1. Right, letter count was 0, now it increases it to 1 with the plus equals 1. And so we've found our first match. So next it's going to look at T. And so what it's doing is this letter is still equal to blank, and now it's looping back through, and it found, okay, blank was equal to blank, cool, add 1. Now it's saying is T equal to blank, and it's not, so it didn't do, right, this came back false, and I suppose I should have put this outside the loop so you could see it's coming back false. But if it didn't print it, it's because that if statement didn't come back true. Now we can see the test result. Alright, so we made it to this way. So each letter is T, and it's saying false. T is not equal to blank. And same thing, A, we didn't have any other blanks, so it's going to go through each one in our list, T, A, E, 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 G, M, all the S's, and it's finding false each time. Now it's going to go to the next letter, capital T, right? So now it's setting letter to T, and you can see how this inner loop, this guy here, completed. Well, this just advanced 1. So this advanced 1 letter, and this went through the entire list, and that's why this is inside that. So it's going to loop through every letter here before it advances even 1 letter here. So you can see now letter, which was blank, has advanced to T, which is our next letter, and then it's going to loop back through again and test them all for blank, and then T, which matches, so it came back true and added 1, and then it's going to continue through, and there's no more capital T's, so they all come back false. And now it's going to advance letter 1 more. Right, it looped through blank, it looped through capital T, now it's going to loop through A. We can see this outer loop is now advancing 1 step at a time. Every time it advances 1 step, it's going to loop through all the letters again. So now it says, let's test if any of them are A. And it comes back false for blank, false for capital T, and then it finds 1 A. And it advances letter count to +1. It's going to loop through the rest of the letters. There's no more A's, and so it advances. It finishes this inner loop, and the outer loop clicks forward 1 to E. So now we've tested blank, we've tested capital T, we've tested A. We're on to E, and this will be a little more exciting because we got several of those. And letter now is E. So it looks through, there's the next inner loop letter is blank, so false. Capital T false, A is false, and then now it finds that string of E's, and you can see it counts our letter count up to 1, up to 2, and then up to 3 for all 3 of the E's it found. Then it continues on, and this finishes until all of the letters, all of the loops have been checked. And at the end of all of that looping work, what happens is it prints out this dictionary that we created that kept account of each one of those letters. So the last step here that I hadn't shown you because I wanted to show you the loop is that every time it finishes this inner loop, every time it goes through the entire list once, it's going to add a key to the dictionary called letter, and it's going to set that equal to letter count. Count dictionary. Let's print that out so we can see it. We can see up here, right, it starts out blank. And then I'm gonna just comment these out because it adds. If you use the hashtag, it makes that part of the code. It interprets it as a code comment, meaning you put it in there to give instruction or to provide additional information for the person using the code. And it skips that, it doesn't run it. So let's run it now. Now that we understand the outer and the inner loops running together, and we can see what's happening with the dictionary. So we can see this count dictionary that we set up at the beginning that's blank, loops through, starts out blank, and then as it loops through, we found out that there was 1 blank letter. So at the end of the loop, we found out the letter blank only had 1 count. And so it puts that inside the dictionary, just like I showed you, as a key value, and then a key, and then a colon and value. Next it looks at the letter M, and it finds that there was 1 M. And it adds that new key M and the new value to our dictionary. So we added blank and 1, now we added M and 1. Next we're going to go to capital T, which is the next letter in our list. And it found 1 capital T, which is right, and it adds that to the dictionary. So you can see the dictionary is building with every loop. It's making the dictionary longer and longer, and that's this piece of code is adding a new key and value to the dictionary. And by the end of it, we have this full dictionary of keys and values for every letter that was in the message. This last little for loop is just for printing, to make it pretty. So you could just print out the dictionary, and it looks like that. The dictionary is a little hard to read, especially if you're not used to looking at Python dictionaries. And so what this loop does is it says for key in count dictionary, print the key, and then a space, and then the value for that key. We call the value by saying look at count dictionary, find the key, and make that the value that's being displayed. So this is going to loop through, and we can say print key, so we can see print our key, and we can also print this, the value. And then let's just print a space in there so we can see it a little better. So print out our test message again. And so it built the dictionary, which we walked through before, how it's using these two loops to count the number of letters. It's using this, line 23, to add it to the dictionary. It's building that dictionary up over time, over the loops. And then this last part is just for the display. So it's looping through each key, so it's finding key. Our first key is the blank. That always throws me off. So it did print out the key is blank and the value is 1, because there was one blank. And so it printed the key, blank, and the value 1. Next, the key is T and the value is 1. And then it prints it out, T1. The next key is A, and the value is 1, and it prints that out. The next key it found is E, and the value is 3, so you can see it's looping through first key, second key, third, fourth, fifth, until it gets to the end of the dictionary. And each time it's printing out the key and the value next to each other. So cool. You can kind of watch it all happen in action. If you're ever wondering, what does this part of the code do? What does that part of the code do? Put in these print statements, take your time, try to match it up. What's happening on the screen versus what's happening, what did I expect to have happen over here? You'll find out, just like I did, I put the print statement in the wrong spot, so it's not showing me, or you misspell a variable. But, keep trying, be persistent, and use the errors that Python creates to figure things out. Right? If you forget, you leave out part of the code, it'll tell you invalid syntax, and it'll tell you line 17. Right, it was looking at line 17 and it ran into the end of it and couldn't figure out what to do. It's just missing its colon. All right, a lot of ground to cover there. If you feel a little overwhelmed, maybe move on to the next lessons, and you'll see it pop up again and again. These for loops, the if statements, and you'll really start to get a feel for what's happening with the code. But for now, I think it's just important to be able to look at the code and kind of get an understanding for what's happening. Right? Oh, this is a dictionary. I know it'll have a key and a value, and I expect this to sort the list that I put in. Oh, I can see there's 2 for loops, so it's going to do 2 sets of looping. Right? This is an if statement, so it's going to make a test of whether this statement is true or not. And that's really the important part to get out of this, more than that you could recreate this on your own, or that you really understand what happened with the for loops. I think it's more important to understand, I could look at this code and kind of understand what's happening. Because these projects will build on each other, and you'll see it more and more. And circle back, watch it again, and take your time. Play around with the code on your own. Put in lots of print statements and watch it happen, because it happens so fast in Python. It's kind of magical. But when you put in the print statements, you get to see what's happening behind the scenes. So, all right, well, have fun, and we'll see you on the next one.